Okay, just from a GDPR point of view, folks, we are recording this session, and we will make the recording available to people later once we've processed it, and run it through the chatGPT system to make sure it's up to scratch. I jest, of course. So look, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for signing on. We're really excited on this module. Joe is with us, and Joe is fresh from probably breaking the records of attendance at some of these things. At a recent one where I think you had a north of 3,000 people registered to attend the one that you guys are lucky enough to be about to receive here, which is, to my knowledge, one of the largest ones UCD has ever actually had to do. I'm sure they had to reopen the pipe, Joe, in terms of letting people get in. So we really appreciate you giving us your time. The Institute, as part of our knowledge sharing platform, have been doing this. And I was just reflecting to Joe, who's been with us along the journey over the last while, that we're coming up on our 90th knowledge sharing masterclass and the various different modules over the last 3 or 4 years. And it's really been a great experience for us in terms of feedback and giving best practice to practitioners in the management consulting area. And we're always, open and welcome to your thoughts in terms of subject matters that you might have an interest in. We've covered a full spectrum, and we're refreshing and renewing. We normally do, we do them quite regularly. So keep an eye out, please, on our LinkedIn page and our Twitter feed, and the various different social media platforms. It's an open forum, and we can, on some of them, actually offer CPD points depending on what the subject matter is, and if you're a member of the Institute. Which, again, if you aren't, please feel free to have a look at our website and consider joining. Now, I know it's not me you're here to see, although I do notice there's a broad international audience with us this afternoon, and I recognize a lot of our own members and students are joining with us, including some of our board members, and it's great to have you here. I must apologize in the first half for the inclement weather we're having, but for those of you in hotter climates, I can share with you that it's a soft day here, thank God, here in Ireland. And we're getting the benefits of climate change, ironically, because normally we're bemoaning the fact, but when we look at our colleagues across the globe at the moment and the intemperate heat that's been experienced, we're quite happy to be here. So Joe needs no introduction on this platform. He's been very kind to us to share his knowledge and his insights and his wisdom over the last couple of years, and is a particular favorite with the IMCA audience, and on this particular subject, which is absolutely uber hot. And we were just discussing, Joe and I, earlier, the thematic schemes that come up on a regular basis, be it from, if you think back to GDPR, and then COVID hit, and working at home, and you're looking at CSRD and compliance and all the various different things that the management consultancy industry profession deal with. And we're always looking at what's coming up next and kind of tooling ourselves up just to be ahead of the pace a little bit, and be I suppose within that knowledge spectrum, kind of at least have a fairly good working knowledge. And again, I couldn't be more thankful to Joe to share, I suppose, what's hot at the coalface, if you pardon that euphemism, in terms of the climate change analogy that we're going through at the moment. So Joe, as I say, it's not me they're here to see, so I'm going to hand over to you. What we're going to do, folks, because I know a lot of people have a lot of questions, is I'm going to ask you to mute if you haven't already done so, and I'll go through the system as well and make sure you're muted. If you have any questions, put them through in the chat box and we'll pick them up along the way. Joe has been kind enough to say that we will deal with them on a rolling basis and then take a few at the end as well, but it's through the chat box, because otherwise there's quite a few people registered here this morning. It could get a little bit chaotic. So Gurmil Mahagat Galer, and Joe, I'm going to let you take the ship of state out now, and really looking forward to this. We're kind of reaching a high water mark here, so there's no pressure whatsoever. And it's the real Joe that we have here, not a drone.
Indeed. Yeah. Hi, everybody. Good to be back. And thanks for coming today. So, I mean, if you've seen any of my presentations previously, you'll know I'm quite happy to take questions as we go along. If you put them in
Alexa, off.
If you put them in the chat, then it's going to be easier, and because there's probably going to be too many people for open mic questions. So yeah, for those of you that know me, and there's certainly a few people in the audience, I see Bernard's in and Clive's in and stuff, so good to see you. Those that don't know me, I lecture up at UCD. I run the Masters in Project Management up there at the Smurfit's Business School. But since kind of November, when ChatGPT really hit the headlines, AI has kind of been an interest of mine. I mean, I'm a techno geek, always have been. I mean, I started life as a computer programmer and stuff. So this is a nice, interesting bit for me, this whole tech confluence of tech and everything else. So the aim of today really was just to share some stuff that I've been kind of using recently. And I'm going to show you a few of the different chatbots, and maybe, you know, think from a consulting point of view, particularly, how might we get more out of these tools? Some of them you may not have seen, some of them you will have seen. Now, what I've done, I'll share my screen. So there we are. So you should be able to see what I've done actually is I've created and I started using this tool, Notion, a little while ago. Patrick, are you seeing the screen okay?
I am. I'm very impressed, Joe.
The sharing is right. So Notion is a tool that I started to use a little while ago. If you've got an educational email, so, you know, UCD, or a student educational email, you will get Notion for free. Otherwise, you know, there's a few euro a month that you can pay to get it. And actually, Notion has an AI chatbot built into it as well. But I'm finding that it's just becoming my go-to place to store information. And it also makes it very easy to create notes and share. So I've shared this. So you see up at the top, so I've created this page with some of the stuff we're going to go through, and some links and stuff like that. And I've shared that, and you can just share it, and then you can publish it as a web page. Okay. So if I copy that web link and I stick that in the chat to everybody, you can open that page up in your browser, and that will persist. I'm going to leave that page up. So all the stuff that I'm talking about, there's kind of links to the different tools and things, and you can follow that. Okay. And viewing the site would then take us to the page that's up now. So this is how it looks. It's just an easy web page. And if I update anything in my Notion document, it automatically updates straight into the website now. You know, if I add new links in and stuff like that. So this is one tool that I'm using on a regular basis that has got AI built in now, and I'm finding really useful. Okay. I've also installed in my normal browser one of the add-ins for ChatGPT. And the eagle-eyed amongst you may notice that I'm actually not using Chrome, which for years and years has been my go-to. I actually switched over to Bing because Bing, Edge rather, Microsoft Edge, because Edge supports the Bing chat, and you can't run Bing chat on Chrome at the moment. So I found switching over to Edge from Chrome, I didn't think I would ever do it, but I have, and I run on a Mac. And all my installed add-ins for Chrome just ported straight over into Edge. But it means that I get Bing access now. So Bing, I can just bring up in that window there now. I just click on the B for Bing, and it gives me the three options. Now, if you are going to use Bing, I would suggest using Creative or Precise rather than the default, which is more balanced. Because if you use Creative or Precise, you get access to the latest version of ChatGPT through Bing. Okay, so Bing leverages ChatGPT 4, which is the more powerful version of ChatGPT. If you stay with balanced, and you just click on whichever one you want. So I normally have it on Creative. Okay, so you can have Bing open while you're doing other browsing, or you can just shut it off. But I have ChatGPT also installed as a browser add-in. So whenever I do a search, and I did a search this morning for IMCA, yeah, and it's interesting. So it brings up IMCA. So Pat, that's good. You're coming up top of the list there. Yeah, sure. It's interesting that ChatGPT reads IMCA, and this is what it gives me. Yeah, which isn't the Irish IMCA, the International Motor Contest Association, or whatever that is. So I mean, this straight away just kind of, you know, signals up what's still an issue with all the AI engines, is that they don't always give you quite what you want. So you have got to be very careful, and as we go through the next few minutes, I think this is a constant, that you've got to learn how to talk to these chatbots. You've got to ask the right questions. You've got to ask detailed questions. You've got to have a conversation with chatbots. Okay. And I think this is one of the key differences that we're seeing now as we move from, if you like, what we used to, which is Google search. Okay. And Google search giving you a list of links like this. Okay. And what we're going to see is that now we will have access to chatbots like ChatGPT, like this, okay, where, you know, we can type a question in, but we don't get the links that we're used to. We get kind of more narrative discourse back. So it's a different way of using the tools, and you're going to get a different set of feedback back from these tools. But I think if I go over to my notes on the Notion page, and I've given you links here to the main tools I'm going to be looking at today as well, including Notion there. Okay, how to talk to a chatbot. Treat it as you would a real personal assistant. So you don't ask questions of a chatbot like ChatGPT or Claude or Bard or Bing, like you ask questions of Google search. With Google search, you generally put in a fairly short question and you're getting a factual answer back in terms of links to stuff. What you want to really do with a chatbot is start to have a conversation. So we've got this thing called one-shot or multi-shot responses. And a one-shot response is one question generates a response. But chatbots are far more powerful than that. And you can leverage the power of the new AI kind of tools by having a conversation with the tool. So imagine that rather than ChatGPT, you're talking to, Fred Blogs, who you've just hired as a personal assistant, and you're asking them to go and do something. You're asking them to go and produce a report for you, or do some research for you, or find some information out about a topic, or go and find the most appropriate models to use to analyze a situation or whatever. Yeah, and that's going to be a conversation, because they're going to kind of not get quite what you want, and they'll maybe bring something back to you and you'll say, well, yeah, that's not quite what I want, let me explain in a bit more depth, or give you some more information. And this is exactly how you work with a chatbot. Okay, so your prompts want to be as detailed as possible, give as much information as you can, give the chatbot parameters. Tell it if you want it to be conversational, tell it if you want it to use UK English or American English or whatever. Tell it who the readership that you are aiming this stuff for is kind of aimed at. So, maybe I want you to give me 400 words on, the risk issues inherent in the situation that I've outlined below. Okay. But give me that in conversational English, or give me that in formal English suitable to go, put into a board briefing paper or something like that. And then it will adjust the flow to what you are looking for. Okay. And another really interesting thing that's coming out of this whole prompt engineering field that is now growing up is you can ask the chatbot what questions you should be asking it. Okay. So I want to know more about this field or whatever, and I've asked you this. What else should I ask you to get a better grasp of, this area or whatever? So give me 10 more questions to ask you, for instance, and that can be a very, very useful way of surfacing other aspects of the scenario that you're trying to look at. So let's just have a little play. Okay, so I'm just going to take this thing up there just so that I've got the notes to refer to as we're going through now. And I've got a number of different tools that I just want to make you aware of. You probably heard of all these, but I don't know whether everybody's aware of them or not. I'm just going to move my window down a little bit because everybody who comes into the waiting room is obscuring my view there. So ChatGPT, okay, so chat.openai.com. If you don't have 2 buttons at the top of ChatGPT, that's because you're not paying them the €20 a month for the full subscription. So you get access to ChatGPT 5, which is good and fast and pretty, you know, anybody can access that. If you pay OpenAI €20 a month, you get ChatGPT 4, and you also get plugins, okay, which are a kind of like extensions that will let ChatGPT do more stuff. Okay, so let's choose ChatGPT 4, and I want to use the plugins. Okay, now I've told it I want to use the plugins, which are in beta. At the moment, it says no plugins enabled. And there's a growing marketplace for ChatGPT plugins. So what you have to do is you have to come down to the bottom, and you have to set up in your settings. Okay, let me just move the web page width down a bit. There we are. Okay, so if I come down to my settings, Joe Houghton, settings. Okay, you have to come to beta features and you have to turn plugins on. Okay, in here, otherwise they don't show up in the main thing. And then they've just released this new thing called Code Interpreter as well. So we can generate kind of data analysis and Python code and stuff. So they keep adding new stuff in here. Okay, so every now and then just come down and check the beta features and just turn everything on. Okay, so that's that. Now, no plugins enabled. So you can see that at the moment, there's a few plugins in this list. That's because I've gone in and I've chosen these. But if you scroll all the way down, you get to the plugin store. And the plugin store allows you, and it allows you to search for different plugins. Okay. So what's this one? Super fast interactive chats with PDFs. Okay, so at the moment, this is giving me all this. Let's list all the plugins. Look, there's like almost 100 pages of plugins now. Okay, and there's new ones coming out every day, and it's really quite difficult to keep track of everything. So what you can do is you can search based on keywords, and it'll give you different stuff. So maybe, you know, I don't know, consultancy. Let's see, anything under consultancy? No. All right, okay. Well, then let's say, I don't know, diagrams. Okay, right. So maybe we want ChatGPT to use a plugin to generate, say, mind maps or diagrams or whatever. Okay, so we can see that increasing numbers, we've got now 2 pages of different diagrams plugins. So that one I've already installed. Okay, so let's install whimsical diagrams as well. You just click on it, and that's it. It's installed. So now it will appear in my list of plugins just here, and you can choose up to 3 plugins. So I'm going to choose Ask Your PDF, and let's see what else we've got. Show Me Diagrams. Yeah, I know that one works. And then we've got whimsical diagrams as well. Okay. So now I can ask some questions. Yeah. So I could say, draw me a mind map, yeah, about the key issues in I don't know, complying with GDPR for a small manufacturing company in Ireland, UK, English. So what this will do is we'll go off and have a little think. And you see, it's said, okay, whimsical diagrams is the best plugin to address this issue. So it's going to go off and find information about complying with GDPR, and then it's going to send the information into whimsical diagrams Okay. Okay, there we go. And there's our diagram. Okay, so here's a mind map about the key issues of complying. So what have we got? GDPR compliance, understanding GDPR, data protection officer, data mapping, consent, subject rights, data breaches, training and awareness, regular audits. Okay. And you've also now got a link. So if I open that as a separate link, then that's opening up Whimsical, which I've never used before today. Okay, there we are. And now we're in Whimsical, and we can save this and we can edit this, you know, in Whimsical. Okay. So this is a big leap forward that ChatGPT took when they introduced plugins, because there's plugins for almost everything. And depending on what you want it to do, whether you want it to book a flight, or, you know, find information out about a theatre, or, you know, or do a mind map like this, there's probably a plugin for it now. So ChatGPT is not just what you get out of the box anymore. The enabled plugins give it superpowers. Okay. So that's that. I'm not seeing any questions, so that's fine. Any questions, stick them in the chat, and we'll try and address them as we go along as well. Okay. Now, Bard is another of the chatbots, and this one, the initial versions of Bard were really ropey, but the one that they released out last week has had a lot of work done under the covers and is now pretty powerful. Okay, so this is bard.google.com, and is available in Ireland as of last week. So you couldn't get access to Bard in Ireland before last week. Now you can. And I would encourage you to have a go at it, have a go with it. And it'll give you different answers to ChatGPT, because they're different models and they're trained on different data, some common data, but other different data. Okay. But I mean, it's very powerful. I mean, look at this. This is a question I asked it a little while ago. Okay. Give me a book outline on a book aimed at educators to address accessibility, UDL, and how AI can help educators with those two. And it generates me chapters within a few seconds on the book. Okay. But then what you do is you start to drill down a little bit further. Okay. So chapter 3, how to use UDL in your teaching. Okay. So my next question was, expand chapter 3 out to 1,000 words. I didn't have to tell it what was in chapter 3, because as long as you stay within the chat that you're in, the chatbot will remember what it's already told you and what you've already asked, and it incorporates that into the ongoing conversation. Okay, so expand chapter 3, here we go. So now it expanded chapter 3 using UDL, 3 principles, practical tips, examples of UDL aligned lessons, Okay, so we've got more stuff. Okay, and then I'm kind of thinking, okay, well, this is flagging up some more questions for me. Give me 20 ways AI can help with accessibility in teaching and learning. Okay, there's 20 ways. Okay. And each of those, then you could expand and say, okay, give me some ideas about, you know, helping students with disabilities to succeed in school. So I'd copy that and I'd say, you know, give me more on how to help students with disabilities expand in school. Okay, so now it's going off and it's having to think, and it will come up with that idea. And what I quite often do when I'm using one of these tools is I'll open up Bing. Yeah, and what Bing tends to do is kind of keep a watching brief on what's going on over here. And sometimes it will just jump in itself, okay, and kind of give you its answer to what you asked over here. And sometimes what I will do is I'll just put the same question in here. So I might copy this from here, and I might just pop it in here and just let Bing answer the same question as well. And you can, you know, you can bring that window over. It normally will go out a bit wider. Okay, there we are. Okay, so that's giving me another answer. So this gives me 2 sources that I can compare and contrast and whatever. this also gives me, Bing also gives me sources. Okay, so it's showing me where it generated the information from. So this can be quite useful because, you know, some of the chatbot engines do this. Some will do it when you prompt them to. So you could say to Bard, yeah, give me the sources for the previous answer. And let's see whether it has got any sources or whether it just says, this is generic stuff and I haven't got any sources, because sometimes that's what it comes back with. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So, and occasionally you get this kind of thing come back. What I often find is if you ask the same question a couple of times, sometimes you'll get the answer the second time. Sometimes you won't. It'll probably make a liar of me now. Yeah. Okay. So it's not going to do that. But here on the right, using Bing, you can see we've got a couple of references there to these. So if I click on this one now, okay, so that's gone to Educore's review, and then this one here, open that up again, and that's IES research. Okay, so these are you know, reasonably credible, solid links. ChatGPT in the early stages was very bad at hallucinating a lot of links that didn't work. So you think you had a load of sources, but when you clicked on the sources, they went nowhere, or you know, they were just made up papers and stuff like that. But Bing is pretty good. I would say 90% of the time, if it gives me a source, it's a valid, regular source that works. So Bing is something that I'm using more and more, as opposed to ChatGPT. They seem to be getting it right. Bard, yeah, it's all right. It's a little bit more conversational and kind of free-flowing than ChatGPT, but it's not in my top 5 at the moment. Although, you know, it's another one to look at. Now, one that I am playing with a little bit more is this one that you may not have come across, which is called iask.ai. Okay, it's a free AI search engine, and you can ask it the same kind of stuff. So, you know, if we go back to that same question, now I don't know whether it will draw me mind maps. So that's maybe an interesting one, because this hasn't got a plugin. So let's see. But what this particular engine does is it kind of gives you a combination of the regular search kind of responses that you would get from a search engine, and also combines that with so here we are, here's the Ask AI search engine. So it's giving us key issues and stuff like that. Yeah, but it's not, doesn't look, well, it hasn't got to the end yet. So is it going to give us a diagram or not at the end? No, it's giving us some links that we can go to, and it's giving us links to mind map creators, but it's not actually giving us our own mind map. Okay, but you know, that might be useful, because you can now fire up one of these mind map programs, drop this information into it, and go ahead on that way. Bum, 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 bum.
Joe, we have a few questions in there.
I see. I'm just looking at that. So Tom, yeah, just to be clear, a paid description is necessary for any plugin? No. The plugins are enabled, I think, with the paid description, with the paid subscription. But you can use up to 3 at any one time in a given chat. So you've got access to the whole of the subscription, the plugin library, and you can install any of those plugins and use any of those plugins, but you can only use 3 at a time. And as far as I know, there's no way of forcing it to use a plugin. I mean, you can suggest, you could say, you know, use the mind map plugin to generate me a mind map, but sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. It's a bit hit and miss. It kind of has to decide whether the plugin is right enough for it to use. So the plugins don't cost anything. I haven't found any that have a subscription yet. How good are the chatbots with voice recognition? They're getting better, and it also depends on the machine you're on. So I have voice recognition enabled on the Mac. Now let's see whether I can make it work. So now I'm in Mac dictation mode, and you can see, look no hands, that whatever I'm saying is coming up in the ChatGPT window. So I'm going to ask a question of ChatGPT. Tell me what the current best practices around accessibility in creating documentation are. So that is as if I typed it in, you can see, and there we go. It's now just giving us information about the question. So if your machine is enabled for dictation, and most modern machines are, just turn the dictate option on and you can talk into ChatGPT or any of the other chatbots nice and easily. Okay, so that's quite useful. So you can have a conversation. Now, if you've got a mobile phone, and probably everybody has, ChatGPT has an official app. So it's the OpenAI ChatGPT app. And if you look in your folder, I don't know, can I show that on the screen? You're not going to see my phone, but the top left-hand icon, this little icon, is the ChatGPT icon. That will allow you to have just a to and fro conversation. So it's specifically optimized for voice input because it's on the phone. And I've used that, you know, driving to and from the airport and stuff. I'm generating stuff using ChatGPT by asking it a series of questions. And because every chat is stored in ChatGPT, I can be doing that in the car, and then next time I'm sitting down at the computer, I can just open up ChatGPT and say, oh yeah, there's the chat on risk management basics. I can click into it and I can go back into there, and all the stuff that I was asking it about is sitting there waiting. Okay.
So we had a question in there just in terms of how big a difference is there between ChatGPT 3 and 4.5 in your view? You know, is there an incremental significant difference, or?
Yeah, I mean, I think given all the other tools that are out there now, unless you need to, don't pay for 4. Don't pay the €20 on to ChatGPT. I mean, I'm doing a lot of demonstrations and showing a lot of companies how to use this stuff at the moment. So I'm paying for it because I need that access to show people. But perplexity.ai is a very good tool, which I would probably invest, you know, the €120 that I had to invest in an AI tool at the moment, I'd probably put it into perplexity.ai at the moment, because that will give you access to other functionality and features that you know, as well as access to ChatGPT 4. ChatGPT as it stands is kind of first advantage at the moment. A lot of the other new kids on the block are now offering extra functionality over and above what ChatGPT will give, and they aren't really getting the plugins right yet. It's not easy enough to find the right plugin and to use these plugins and surface which ones do what. So what we're seeing now is, if you like, the second generation AIs are coming out that are building on ChatGPT and these other language models, but are putting another layer of functionality on top, like a wrapper on top of something else, and to do more specific jobs perhaps. So that's what I would do. But yeah, they're getting very good with voice recognition, Clive. Yeah. Now, one that was released in the UK and the US last week, but you can use from Ireland using a VPN. So I mean, I'm using NordVPN, and I've just logged in using NordVPN to the UK. Okay, so I can now fire Claude up. Okay, and this is just Claude.ai. This model, this language model, allows you to put in much more information before you start a chat. So ChatGPT is limited to about 3,500 words. So that's a relatively small number of what they call tokens that you can kind of prime it with before you start asking questions and stuff like that. Claude will take 75,000 words, which is like half a book. Okay, and this is pretty good. So what I did this morning was I went on to the Disability Federation Ireland public site, and I had a look at the documents on that site, and I downloaded. Okay, I was just looking for a PDF to download. Okay, so you know, this is the first one that I found that looked about the right size. So submission to the midterm review of roadmap for social inclusion in October 2022, and you can see they put together a submission, and there's quite a bit of stuff in this document. Okay, so maybe, you know, DFI is a company I'd like to do a bit of business with. Maybe I want to send them in a proposal, or, you know, give them some options or whatever. Okay, but I'm busy and I haven't got time to read through, you know, however many pages this is. You know, so let's see whether Claude could help us with this. Okay, so Claude, you see this little button here. It will allow you to upload documents into Claude. You can add 5 documents maximum, 10 megabytes each, PDF, text, CSV, Word, whatever. Okay, so I'm going to go to my downloads files, and I'm going to, that's that PDF file. So I'm just going to upload that into Claude. Okay, so that's now in Claude. Yeah, and now I can ask Claude some questions. Yeah, summarize this document for me. Okay. It's having a little think. Okay, okay, so here's the key points from that submission.
That's extraordinary.
You like that, Patrick? Yeah.
I do like that.
Yeah.
This would be the Reader's Digest version, Joe.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, this is the Cliff Notes, isn't it? You know, it's dead easy. Yeah. And I mean, you know, for students, I mean, I know I've got at least one current student on the call today. Amit's on, and I see Bernard's on as well, who also lectures with me on the master's program. And Clive used to be on our call. Nina's on as well. I can see there as well. I mean, you know, summarizing PDFs, this saves a lot of time. So, you know, this is a nice thing to be able to do. Okay.
Yes. Thank you, Joe.
Yeah, no worries. Okay. So I mean, that's a key point for the submission, but you know, let's go into consultancy mode, shall we? So give me a SWOT analysis of the points in the document. Yeah. I've not told it what a SWOT analysis is.
Now, Joe, can that interrogate Excel spreadsheets, for example?
Yeah. Yeah, you could point it at data as well. And for Excel spreadsheets, the new functionality that was introduced to ChatGPT last week around data analytics allows it to do incredible things. Now, you know, I'm not plugging all my stuff, but I do a weekly, bi-weekly newsletter, which is kind of,
which we would strongly recommend. We'll be sending out the link to it. Not that it's chocolate to your ears or anything like that, Joe, but I have to say I follow it myself. It is very, very helpful. Your the insights, you know, in a very, very fast-moving space are really, really cutting edge. And I would commend anyone on the session here to hook up with Joe either on LinkedIn and go into his, I suppose, his newsletter and sign on for that. Really, really cutting edge stuff.
Super. And I mean, one of the things that I'll be covering in that, you know, is the new developments that ChatGPT's data analytics plugins are now offering. But I mean, you can do quite complex data analytics on data sets, both in Excel, in Google Sheets, in, you know, almost anything that you can pull in. You can create diagrams, you can create Python programs, and you know, all kinds of stuff. So yeah. Oh yeah. Patrick's put a link to it in the chat. But here we are. There's a SWOT analysis. Okay. Okay, so we've got strengths, we've got weaknesses, we've got opportunities, we've got threats. Yeah. You know, if I wanted to send DFI a proposal, you know, outlining some weaknesses in their document and offering some positive suggestions to improve this, yeah, can you outline me such a proposal?
Okay.
Yeah.
This is where we're going into the realm of magic now, Joe.
Well, that's right. Yeah. Okay, so here's a draft proposal for you. Now, what you do when you do stuff like this is you look at what it comes up with,
Yeah.
and you throw some of this away. You know, some of it is just not going to be applicable, but it might give you a couple of ideas. Yeah. You know, so, okay, you might want to consider recommending more incremental achievable steps the government could take towards a cost of disability payment. Yeah. So you know, let's take that and say, you know, expand on this idea. Yeah. Give me more background information on this, and, you know, a detailed plan of action with recommendations. And you see what I mean about having a conversation about,
Yeah.
it gives you stuff, and then you think about that and you build on that, and you take it something and run with it, or ask for more information, or maybe combine it with some other stuff that you already know, and you know, and build on this. Okay.
Claire was asking there, Joe, will it assess the, you know, the technology assess the competence of the author?
Well, I hope not, Claire. I'm in trouble if it does, but no, it won't. So, I mean, I suppose if you've got a domain knowledge, then it's relatively easy for you to scan read what's coming up and say yes, yes, no, maybe, you know, and take stuff. And so if you don't have that, and I mean, I'm starting to use this in class now, you know, when I'm working with students, and I've been doing some teach the teachers sessions as well recently with various colleges and schools. It's a great exercise to have students put some questions into one of the chatbots and get an answer, yeah, and then have them fact check the answer. And I mean, this is, again, probably what you do as a consultant as well. You know, you don't take what you're told just straight as it is. You need to go and check your sources, and you need to make sure that then the advice that you're giving the client is kosher advice. You don't want to get into the trap of that American lawyer about 3 weeks ago, who, you know, just asked ChatGPT for a set of citations of other legal cases, and ChatGPT made up a whole set of legal cases, which they were promptly pasted into the response, which was sent into court, and the other counsel for the other side caught the fact that these things didn't exist, and they ended up with a $5,000 fine and a big slap on the wrists for, you know, professional misconduct. So we've got to be careful of that stuff.
Would that be kind of initial emerging evidence there, Joe, of ChatGPT having perhaps a sense of humor?
I don't know whether it's got a sense of humor or not, but it's certainly, you can't trust the AIs at the moment.
No.
Okay, take whatever they give you with a big pinch of salt. That's the children coming home from their school camp this morning, and the dog is welcoming them. Let me close the door. Okay. Yes. Hopefully the noise should die down in a second. Apologies.
So, Joe, just, I suppose, conscious of your valuable time in terms of where we're at the moment, you know, if you were looking at, say, your top three, I suppose, go to, so out beyond, if we say ChatGPT, for example, obviously, And you mentioned perplexity, I guess, and so on. But what are the ones that are kind of exciting you at the moment in terms of just, if you look at a management consultant in terms of, I suppose, using time effectively or generating data effectively in terms of, you know the space we're coming from and so on and where we're at. So it's all about time management and efficiency. What's exciting you in that space?
I would load up Edge and use Bing, because
Yeah.
I'm using Bing as my primary engine most of the time now.
Okay.
Because it has this ability to ingest quite large sets of information. Yeah. And then another one that I've been really interested in is Dante.ai. Okay.
I've heard about Dante. Yeah. Okay.
What Dante.ai allows you to do is create your own chatbot based on a data set. Now, the free one, you can only put in, I think, 100,000 words or something, to create a data set. But what this allows you to do, so I loaded, I released a book on project management a few months ago. So I loaded in 2/3 of my book on project management. Okay. And that created a data set. It's not coming up for some reason now. Yeah, because I've got too many things in it now for the free version. So sure. You've got to pay, pay the $10 or $15 a month, but then you can load in a whole set of documentation. Okay. And then you can use that set of documentation as almost like a closed environment, and the chatbot will give you answers based on everything you've loaded in.
Okay.
So a whole set of information about, a client or an industry area or something. You can basically effectively create your own chatbot that only you have access to, or anybody that you share it with, and it's only accessing your company's information.
And would you trust a chatbot at the moment if you were to put it on a company website, an automated one?
I think some of those chatbots are very good now, the customer service chatbots.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they're going to change the game. I mean, these have been around for years. I mean, Amtrak replaced all the service people like 10 years ago with a chatbot, and they've only got better since. But something like Dante, where you can create your own chatbot to mine a data set, I think consultancy firms particularly, this is a space that they're going to then be able to differentiate, because they've got IP in terms of information that they've gathered over many client interactions and many years and stuff. Well, if you can leverage and harness that data set better than perhaps you are doing at the moment, by giving your consultants access to that data set through a chatbot that's just for them, that might give you an edge over the guys down the road who don't have this. So this is something that you should all be looking at.
Okay.
Yeah. And no, if you're uploading those personal documents or whatever to Dante or others, now you got to be careful who you do it to. I'm pretty sure I had a look at Dante's terms of service and stuff, and it's basically a closed environment. It's not uploading it to the web for to be used to train chatbots, other chatbots and things. It's a kind of bubble that you have access to. Never load any personal or kind of sensitive information into ChatGPT or Bard or Bing, because they go straight into the pool. Okay, and then everybody will be able to kind of leverage that information. But things like Dante are specifically designed for companies who want to generate their own closed data set access.
Okay.
And Word and Outlook will have this stuff built in by Christmas. Canva already has. Here's Canva. Okay, and if I'm creating a new document in Canva there, and I hit the /, that gets me into Magic Write, which is inbuilt AI in Canva. And this will be in Word. Something similar will be in Word in the next month or two. Okay, write me a story, about a frog and a princess. And you can not only ask it to give you a story, but you can also ask it to generate you a picture as well. So it'll do graphics as well. So you don't even need to go to DALL-E or Midjourney and stuff now. You can get this stuff done straight away. So really, really clever. Yeah, visuals in Adobe tools, the Adobe Firefly and stuff like that, and the Photoshop beta and stuff. I'm doing a talk for the RPS on that next week. So
okay, folks, any other questions there? Just as I'm conscious of, we're coming up to the end of our time with Joe, and we want to just, I suppose, leverage the knowledge that is available to us in this moment in space and time. Joe, I mean, I've seen, I suppose, we've had huge change over the last 36 months, and COVID, I think, drove a lot of that to a large degree. People were spending more time kind of, I suppose, considering I suppose the use of technology, and the platform that we're on here this afternoon, actually, I suppose, was the primary driver of a lot of that, and people are becoming much more comfortable with it. What, while it is very positive, where do you see on the converse of that, the limitations of that? I mean, consultancy is all about intellectual capital. It's adding value, I suppose, at the uber niche points, but also, I suppose, in terms of areas where specific, applications have to be designed, under a particular tight timeline and so on. And it's knowledge sharing. It's that old adage of knowing where to look in terms of the knowledge at a specific point in time that companies mightn't have. Where do you see the weaknesses from our perspective as an industry in terms of, or are there any?
I think there's a weakness in AI in general, that we could start just to rely on AI and not have any, we could lose the creative bit of the stuff that we think and add the value in ourselves.
Yeah.
I can ask ChatGPT to write me the proposal, and if I just take the proposal as is, well, that's a proposal you could have generated, or Marco could have generated, or Ken could have generated. Where's my special sauce? Where's my added value? And I think,
and that's Joe, I mean, we just did research there recently in terms of, I suppose, the next 3 to 5 years, and a lot of the feed we were getting back was cognizant of the AI that's upon us, is that people were going down the more uber niche top end areas as being where really they could compete against AI.
yeah,
It's real world, real lived experience in terms of the subtle nuances where, at the very uber niche. And we can see that happening. But for the general management consultancy industry, clearly it's a challenge.
it is. And I mean, I think it's going to make it a little more homogenous, that the kind of, bog standard entry level consultant can compete at a higher level now, because more access to more information that they can assemble faster into something that looks pretty good. Yeah. So, producing a B+ piece of work is now easier than it ever was before. If you want an A grade piece of work, you might have to pay for experience and whatever, but anybody can produce a B+ piece now.
Now, Joe, as I said, we're coming to the end of it, and there is one burning question that we have been getting in here. Whether ChatGPT can actually answer it remains to be seen. Will Mayo win the All-Ireland next year?
Yeah, I'm not sure. ChatGPT only goes up to September 2021, so I'm not sure whether the form will be up to it. But
it doesn't have that power.
You could ask Bing. Bing would probably give you an answer. Yeah.
All right. Well, Joe, look, thank you so much. That was really brilliant, and hopefully we could impose on you to come back maybe later in the season with the next evolution of thinking in terms of this space, because it's hot to trot, and we really enjoy spending time with you, and you're so kind to give us your knowledge. Folks, we'll be recording this and we'll be sending it out due course. We put up some links to Joe's contact points in terms of LinkedIn and Twitter and his newsletter, and we'll send it out as well with the recording when it comes out. Our next one is coming up soon. Please keep an eye on our LinkedIn page ourselves and our website and so on. Joe, Askelga Gramil Mahagat, in English, you're very kind. Really appreciate your time. Enjoy the rest of your day, folks. We promise to have you out with 5 minutes to spare. We're actually going to live to that commitment. And thank you. Joe, slán go fóill.
Thanks,
everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye.